That conversation then just led into what is now Recoil. I think the biggest obstacle was actually just self-belief. I entered some business startup competitions, I won some funding as well, and I think those funding competitions really give you like the external validation that you need as well to keep going and just go for it. The journey, however long you think it's going to take, double it. However much you think it's going to take, double it. You might be somewhere close to being right. And I kind of said, nah, surely not. Like, it can't take that long, can't cost you double what you think. But in reality, like, it did end up taking quite a bit longer and costing a little bit more than what I thought.
Hello and welcome to this discussion. I'm Colin Grant, Editorial Director of Business Connect Interactive. And today we'll be examining the challenges facing women inventors in Scotland. We'll discuss what it takes to progress your great idea from the planning stage to full production. And we'll find out if the process is more difficult for women. To guide us through these and other related issues, it gives me great pleasure to introduce businesswoman Vicky Hamilton, who is the inventor of Recoil knee pads. Her product is designed to control and prevent arthritis from taking over people's lives. A very warm welcome to you, Victoria, and thank you for joining me. And I'd like to begin by asking, what was the inspiration behind Recoil knee pads?
Hi, Colin. Well, thank you very much for inviting me along. The inspiration for Recoil was really my dad. So the backstory to it is that I was a student studying product design engineering at Strathclyde Uni. And my dad is a joiner and he's got arthritis in his knees and he's always like suffering from knee injuries and knee problems. And I needed a final year design project, and I'd said to my dad, like, right, I need to come up with this final year design project. What do you think I could do? And then he jokingly had just said to me, can you design me some new knee pads I can use at work? And that conversation then just led into what is now Recoil. So with my dad's the kind of inspiration behind the product.
Yeah, now I understand that you basically, when you came to designing the product, you looked at the suspension system of a car.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Was it a specific car?
No, it wasn't. To be honest, it was just kind of, I was sitting with some friends in the design studio in uni, and we were just like brainstorming different solutions. And then I originally started as an idea of like, well, what about like a hammock? And like if you put your knee into like a kind of sling. And then I started to think about springs, and then I thought about car suspension system. And then, yeah, it just kind of went from there.
And so in the end, what did you come up with? What was the actual design?
So basically the design is a knee pad for the trades and construction industry, and it basically uses springs. So the springs are arranged in a circular arrangement. And then essentially what happens is when you kneel, the impact, your initial kind of kneeling impact is absorbed by the springs. And then your knee is able to like pivot and tilt better across the ground. Because if you think about it, when you're kneeling, your knee is obviously curved, the ground's flat. So when you kneel, like there's only a small contact area between your knee and the ground. So all of your weight, all your pressure is put on that one part of your knee. So with my design, there's 6 springs around the outside of your knee. So it's basically increasing the contact area that your knee has with the ground. And if you increase contact area, you reduce the overall pressure on the knee. So that's the kind of way in which it works.
And was your father very appreciative of the product?
Yeah, he was. He uses them. Uses them all the time. So it's always nice, like when he sends me like a picture of them, like if he's using them for a job or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, I've got the knee pads, using them today." So no, it's always good to see.
That's good. So what were the main obstacles, to your successful business, as it were? I mean, obviously there were issues of investment, there was issues of time and resources. How did all that pan out?
Yeah. So obstacles. I mean, there's been quite a few along the way, and it just kind of it depends on what stage you're at, I guess. But if I think right back to like startup stage, I think the biggest obstacle was actually just self-belief. So I think a lot of people have ideas, but they don't believe that they can be the person that can take it forwards. So I think self-belief is probably like the biggest obstacle that I came across. And thankfully, I was just really fortunate to be surrounded by a lot of really supportive people. I really immersed myself in like the Scottish entrepreneurial ecosystem and just found a lot of really great people that were really encouraging, really supportive. And they were like, you can do this. I entered some business startup competitions. I won some funding as well. And I think those funding competitions really give you like the external validation that you need as well to keep going and just go for it.
How much time did it take you from the day you got the idea to the day that the Recoil knee pads became a reality?
Yeah, so I think that's the part that most people kind of underestimate. So someone said to me right at the start of the journey, however long you think it's going to take, double it. However much you think it's going to take, double it. You might be somewhere close to being right. And I kind of said, nah, surely not. Like, it can't take that long, can't cost you double what you think. But in reality, like, it did end up taking quite a bit longer and costing a little bit more than what I thought. And I think that's just to say, like, that's I've heard of a lot of people have had similar experiences. So timescale wise, like, I graduated in September 2013, and then it was basically like 2 years of just kind of product development. So I had a little bit of money at the start, spent that money, got to a specific stage. I then had to try and fundraise, get more money, got it to another bit of the journey and the product development journey. Again, ran out of money, needed to look for some more money. So I was just getting like little pockets of cash along the way, like, you know, like £1,000 here, £5,000 kind of there, and slowly progressing the product along. So it was 2 years of basically doing that to get it to something that was right final design. Then at that point, I entered into a competition called the Scottish Edge Fund, and I was fortunate enough to win 50% grant, 50% loan at that point in time, which enabled me to then set up manufacture in Edinburgh for the product. And we sold our first products in 2016. So it was, 2.5 years. This relates back to when I was working. So I was bootstrapping the business and I was working in Homebase and working in the product design consultancy. And we had our first batch of product. All the parts were manufactured and they were in Edinburgh. But money was that tight. We didn't have enough money to actually pay anybody else to assemble them. So I was like, right, I'm going to assemble these products myself. So I thought, right, I'll do it over the course of a weekend to just get them all assembled. So my manufacturer in Edinburgh had said to me, right, all your parts are ready to go. I was like, right, okay. I was like, I'll drive through and I'll like pick up some of the parts that I need, and then I'll drive back home and I'll just spend the weekend assembling them. So I finished work in Homebase at like 5 o'clock on a Friday night, jumped in my car, drove through to Edinburgh, and the manufacturer had said to me, right, you're going to be after hours, so just go up to the shutter, there's a doorbell, ring the doorbell, somebody will bring the pallet out for you. I was like, right, okay, cool. So what I didn't tell them was that my car was like a Corsa. It was the tiniest car ever. So I drove up to Edinburgh and like rang this doorbell at the shutter, and the shutter opened, and the guy was like, right, okay, you're Vicky, you're here to pick up the Recoil stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's right. He's like, where's your van? I was like, oh no van. See that wee Corsa sitting over there? That's the van. And he was like, I don't know how you're going to fit all this stuff in because it's all in boxes. So wheeled the pallet over to my car, and then it probably took me about half an hour taking everything out of boxes and literally like just packing it all into the boot, packing it into the back seat, squeezing everything in. So funny story about the startup journey. Like, you just have to think innovatively, I think, and just make stuff work and just find solutions.
Yeah, and all because you couldn't really afford a van.
Yeah, basically. Couldn't afford a van, couldn't afford anybody to put the product together. So I was like, right, drive through to Edinburgh, pick them all up, do it myself.
How long did it take you to put the product together?
Well, thankfully, I recruited my parents that weekend, recruited some friends as well. So we managed to get them assembled over the course of a weekend. But yeah, it was good fun. It's all good memories.
Sorry, where were you based at the time?
Gourock. So
is that where you lived? Gourock,
yeah. Okay. So I was based in Gourock. So we assembled them, and my mum and dad have got a big garden shed. So that was set up as an assembly line for the weekend so that I could assemble these knee pads in the garden shed.
Very good. And just from that point, so you assembled them in Gourock, right? How do you get them out to market from there then?
Yeah, so we mainly sell through our website and sell through Amazon. So we do like fulfillment by Amazon. So Amazon does all of our fulfillment. If you buy on the Amazon platform, Amazon will do all of the order fulfillment. If you buy on our website, we've got a company in East Kilbride that does like all the order distribution for us. So they do the assembly now, and they hold all the stock. And then when we get the orders coming in, they just do all the fulfillment.
I read though that during the process you had to stop, and because you were working initially in Homebase.
Yeah,
and then you left to launch this product, but then eventually you ran out of cash, and so you had to go back to Homebase for a while. Was that a difficult time in your life?
Yeah, that's right. So that was just after we started selling the product. So in all honesty, I underestimated sales and marketing. I'd studied an engineering degree. I'm very much more focused around like the maths and numbers, and sales and marketing. I thought I probably didn't give it enough consideration in the earlier stages of the startup journey. So I went back to Homebase and bootstrapped the business onto Homebase. Yeah, I mean, it was really, really difficult from a time perspective because I had a 20-hour contract in Homebase. I was also doing some product development work externally as well, which was like another, I think it was a 16-hour contract there. And then I also had like Recoil that I was still trying to like keep going. So there was a lot of like time commitment pressure, which was difficult to manage. But yeah, I think when you're passionate about your idea, you keep going. And like Recoil was always enjoyable, and I loved like the journey and the process that I was on. So just kind of kept going with it and just pushing forwards.
And how's the product doing now? I mean, where can you find it?
Yeah, so we mainly sell on our website and on Amazon. We also sell through a few different retailers in the UK. So we've got a page on our website with all different retailers. And we mainly sell in America as well. So America is probably our biggest export market. So still manufacture in Edinburgh as well. So pretty pleased and proud of that, keeping manufacture local. And yeah, it's going well, like really happy with where it is. And we get a lot of really positive feedback from customers that are using the product. And it's always really nice when you get like an email from someone just saying like, I have so much pain with my knees, I started using this product. I didn't think I was going to be able to continue in my career, started using yours, and like it's just made life so much easier for me. And for me, that's like what really motivates me, getting those messages and just being like, oh, this product really is making a difference. I'm really, really proud of that.
So can you tell me a bit about the structure of the company?
Yeah.
Do you have fellow investors now, or are you on your own, or how does it work?
Yes, so I've got one investor. So I got my investor invested, I think it was 2017. Couldn't ask for a better investor, in all honesty. Like we have a really, really good relationship, and he's really supportive. Pushes me as well, which is always really good. So yeah, got one investor, and we also have like in our supply chain really strong relationships with all the different partners in the supply chain. So that really helps to keep things just moving along and make sure everything's as it should be.
So it's just the two of you and no staff then, basically?
We have like an outsourced marketing consultant as well that does like all of our marketing, and then we outsource all of our assembly and like order fulfillment to another company. So we have like an account manager that we deal with quite regularly, pretty much on a day-to-day basis, that helps with all the operations side of things.
Okay. Has lockdown impacted on the business?
Yeah, it did. So March 2020, I think like every business, it had its impacts. We were quite fortunate that like our product had a bit of a market appeal to like gardening and DIY as well. So even though trades and construction had kind of like shut down, like every other pretty much industry had done, gardening and DIY started to kind of like the sales there started to pick back up. So we were quite lucky that like we had multiple markets that the product appeals to, and that kind of helped to get us through the lockdown period when construction and trades weren't really moving as much. So yeah, it's been hard, but we've got through it. So we got through it so far. So fingers crossed, we keep going.
So what does the future hold? Are you looking to expand into different markets?
Yeah, so we've got we've got a couple of other like product ideas. Some of them are just like accessories to the existing product range. We've already started selling those on the website, and international sales as well. We're really looking for like international distributors in Europe at the moment in time. So we're wanting to try and grow into Europe. But yeah, that's pretty much where we're at.
And really, this is for me the key question. Did you find it more difficult, do you think, being a woman than it would have been for a man, or was it just the same, do you think?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I guess I can't. I don't know. Like that's the honest answer, because this is the first time that I've ever started a business as well. So I genuinely, everything was new experiences, and I genuinely don't know. That is the answer. I think if I was looking at challenges, I would say, if we relate it back to that self-belief aspect, I would say my age was probably a challenge, more of a challenge from my perspective, just because I think when you are a student and when you're a little bit younger, age, sometimes people associate age with lack of experience or whatever. So from my perspective, I would actually say it was more age.
When you were at university, what was the split between women and men in your course? Because engineering is more of or design is possibly regarded as more of a male-orientated sort of sphere, or has that changed now?
So when I was doing my course, yeah, it was definitely, I would say maybe like 85% male, 15% female. I now know that I did quite a lot of stuff with the department that I was once a student in, and the ratio has changed quite significantly. I don't know exactly what it is now, but it's definitely much more balanced than what it was previously when I was a student. When I was in school as well, I do think, like, for example, I didn't know really what engineering was until I was like in 5th year of high school, and the only reason I considered engineering as a career was because we had like a careers assembly in school, and a woman from Rolls-Royce had come in and she asked the audience, she asked us, she was like, who's thinking about a career in engineering? And it was the majority of like the boys that put their hands up. And then she gave this presentation about what she did, and I was sitting in the audience and I was like, oh, actually, that sounds pretty cool. That sounds quite interesting. I'd be up for that. I'd be interested in that. And that's really what got me into engineering. So I think when I was in school, it was probably more like the subjects and stuff were probably more, and the interest was probably coming more from the boys. But again, I think things are changing. I definitely think things are changing. And I'm involved with a really good charity called Smart STEMs as well, that is really quite good on promoting science, tech, engineering and maths to girls in school. I do a lot of volunteer work with that as well. So it's good that there's all these opportunities, I think, coming up, but there's always scope to do more.
That brings us to the end of this discussion. And I would like to thank you, Vicky Hamilton, for joining me today on Business Connect Interactive. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for having me.